Alrighty, so welcome to the morning mindset, day before Thanksgiving. Goodness. In the United Kingdom, I know that's not as big of a deal here in the United States. Thanksgiving is one of our bigger holidays, so I appreciate those of you that are spending your day here with us. A lot of you already have the day off. We didn't have a lot of our webinars this week because of Thanksgiving. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to be able to spend some time with some friends and family. All my kids will be together. I'll be at my parents' house. Very excited about all those things. Unfortunately, being a vegan, I don't get to eat any of the turkey, but at least I get to enjoy the festivities. So, what is today? Today is an important day because the holidays are here. And the holidays are a time that all of us in direct sales are working really hard to try and make sales on the internet and try to make sales in person. It's an important time of year for all of us. But it's also a very important time to really connect with yourself and connect with the people that you work with and with the people in your life, and to show appreciation and gratitude for the people and all the hard work that they do and the things that the value that they bring to your life. You know, it's a lot of times it's really easy to forget about those things and to focus on things that aren't as important. And I'm personally even, guilty of doing that often enough. So today's subject is love people and love the struggle. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, get a notebook, take some notes, plan to, do a few things with the information that we have today to see what you can't do to make the rest of your day a better day. All right, make your rest of your day more effective. Maybe this is a good day to get back with the people that are in your organization and get back with the people in your families, your friends, and show some gratitude, some appreciation. So love people, love the struggle. When everything gels, which is 20% of the time, we always see the brighter side of our work. Someone buys, someone signs up, etc. So if you're having 20% success in your business, okay, and what I mean by 20% success, overall success has nothing to do with what we're speaking about here. But in a given day, let's say 2 hours of your 8 hours was super solid. Or let's just say one day in the week, you did really well, okay? It's easy on those days, all right? Everything gels. You kind of kick them back. You're like, man, things worked. People listened. People purchased. People signed up. Someone new came in and told me my products and company were incredible. These things happen, and we feel great. And it's 20% of the actual experience we have as entrepreneurs. Okay, real entrepreneurs know that 20% really counts, especially on the weeks where they're getting 5%, once in a while, because that usually evens out over a period of time. Because that 20% only comes if you work your hardest and do everything right, or at least as right as you can. And so, that 20%, when that happens, things gel. You feel good. Things are okay. 50% of the time, we are fighting our emotions, growing, being brave, refusing to give up, giving up, refusing to give up again, and growing again. If any of you kind of think backwards in all the days that you've been working as an entrepreneur, you could probably coin up about 50% of it to struggle. Okay, whether that means you did something that you weren't normally used to doing, or let's say you decided to start doing cold calls and your first 10 calls were so terrible that your fear of cold calling doubled even though you started. Everybody knows what that struggle is. About 50% of the time, all of us deal with it. Anybody that's an entrepreneur, okay? And you got to look at the struggle differently, or the struggle will look at you differently. Okay, I'll explain what I mean by that. But 50% of the time we are fighting our emotions, growing, being brave, refusing to give up, giving up, refusing to give up again, and growing again. As we develop forward as entrepreneurs, we're developing our capacity to manage things that are beyond our control, beyond the potential we already currently have. We're growing. These growing pains are real. And some of the most powerful things for us is to know that the growing pains that we've gone through in the past have actually shaped our minds, and has shaped our lives, and shaped a little bit more of our future that we're building towards. Things that we were trying to learn are becoming standards in our mind. Principles that we live by a year ago were principles we were learning about. And there's a tremendous amount of value in the struggle. It's that 50% of the time where we're fighting our emotions, growing, being brave, refusing to give up, giving up, refusing to give up again, and growing again, that we actually become more than we are. And we need to learn to appreciate that part of the struggle, and it is not easy. That is not something easy to appreciate, especially when you let it get to you. And it's gotten to me before. And the reality is you've got to start working differently in the way you respond to things. Now, I'm going to mess this quote up completely because I'm just talking about the principle, but this came from Eric Worre's book. He was actually quoting another gentleman, another distributor that he met at a convention. And the gentleman told him, you can measure a man by the size of the problem he lets get to him. And, that's that's something I was even thinking about yesterday, because I had a struggle yesterday, to be honest with you. I had a lot going on. Yesterday was a hard day for me. And I remember that quote. I even talked to my wife about it. And it's such a valuable thing to remember, because no matter how much we know, how much we've developed, what level of the tier of the company we're at. I'm a CEO currently, and it doesn't really matter what tier you're at. You're measured by the amount of stress or the amount of burden that you can handle with a smile. How's that for something simple? And so I challenge you guys, I encourage you to follow me into this perspective today, because I'm taking this perspective on today myself. That 50% of the time we are fighting our emotions, growing, being brave, refusing to give up, giving up, refusing to give up again, and growing again. And that we learn to love this part of the struggle in ourselves. Okay, so when I have that thing at the top and I say love people, I'm talking about yourself first. Okay, look at your struggle personally, the things that you're going through yourself, and accept this within yourself first. Okay? 30% of the time we are realizing the effects others have on what we do and either growing from it or blaming it. People equal outside influence you can target. My upline didn't give me enough training. The 5 people that I enrolled quit. My husband this, my wife that, my kids this. There's all kinds of targets. And man, is it easier to pick up a bow and hit a target than it is to aim at yourself. It's a lot simpler. And it's funny because it's subtle, because we give ourselves excuses, right? In other words, someone else may be a bigger problem than in our minds should be allowed. And so now they're a target, but everyone else that's only doing things a little bit to me, those aren't targets, but only the guys doing the really bad things to me right now. The ones that really control my life. Those guys they're targets. It's their fault. Okay, here's the formula. If you love people and love the struggle, everything is a win. And I was supposed to say that a little bit differently. It's funny. But if you love people and love the struggle, everything is a win. We'll look at it from that angle. Okay? You're struggling, and anybody that you're targeting, I guarantee, is struggling too. And they may be on that part of that struggle. Let's go back up to that 50% of the time where what are they doing? They're giving up. They're fighting their emotions. Okay, they're on that backswing of that pendulum. They haven't quite come back the other direction yet. And maybe they won't in your organization. Maybe they won't this year. Maybe they won't this lifetime. You never know. But when you know that that struggle is what it is, and that it's taken you as much as it takes you to get through it, you can identify that in other people. And let me tell you, you want to keep your team members? Love them. Associate with the struggle that they have. Stand them up, dust them off a little bit, and try to get them pointed in the right direction. Especially if you're in leadership, that's your job. Okay, but the reality is you got to love them. because you're going through the same thing. You might be stronger. Like I said, you may have learned these principles last year that now are just principles you live by. You'd be surprised at things that people actually don't know, things they've never heard about. See, as we learn, we get assumptive that everybody else should, or at least to a degree, know exactly the same things that we know, because those assumptions are created by our own consciousness when we're discussing things with people. That even though we give them a principle in our mind as clear as it is, in their mind it might be super abstract and not make any sense. People are all at different tiers in life. But if you love them and you love the struggle that they're in, you can help them. You can kind of get down and understand them a little bit better. And instead of being frustrated with them, you try to learn your way into the struggle that they're having so that you can help them. Because I'll tell you, you love people in this business, if you're network marketing, and you make that one of your primary reasons for all the communications you have with them, period. The work they do will change. The work that you do will change. The relationship you have with them will change. And they'll be a little bit closer to that 20% we talked about. Because people have to feel loved, and they have to feel excited and happy about the things that they're trying to accomplish at least 20% of the time. Okay, that 50% of the struggle, we all know it's there. There's no escaping it. Okay, but if we take that 30% of the time when we're realizing the effect that other people have on us, and we redirect our energy to supporting them, loving them, and helping them with their struggle, because we know we're struggling too, giving them advice, tell them your story, tell them about the things that you've gone through, the things that you've conquered. Okay, when you're talking on social media with somebody that's used to be in your organization and they're not active, okay, and they say, well, I don't think I have time for this right now. Why don't you hit them back and say, listen, I didn't feel like I did either, and I'll tell you it's hard. Put time in, but I'd like to talk to you about it. I'd like to tell you my story. Okay, what is that? You're caring about them. You're giving them your heart on some things, and you're wanting to help them. Well, guess what? People like that. They'll take that phone call. And if it turns them around, great. If it doesn't, something they'll probably never forget. You know, I'll tell you something that I think I've talked about in my mindsets quite a few times. When I was young, when I was in my early 20s, and for those of you that are past I'm 40 now, I apologize for saying this is young and that I'm old now. But when I was young, in my early 20s, I had a friend. His name was Justin Haskell, a real good friend of mine. And growing up, I was a musician. I think I've mentioned that before. That was my dream. I was going to be on stage and have a guitar in my hands, and that's all I cared about. And honestly, that is all I cared about until I turned 25. And Justin was a guitarist. He was a good friend of mine, and we used to hang out. We were friends. We didn't have any business going on together. In fact, even though he was a musician, he didn't play in the same bands I played in. And I remember 3 years went by where I didn't see him. I didn't know what he was up to. I knew he moved to Alabama. That's where he was from. And at the time, we were in Salt Lake, and I had moved to Salem, Oregon, close to Portland there. And he wanted to come live there because me and some of my other musicians friends were all kind of gathering in that city, and he wanted to come live there. So he came, and he told me a story about something I said to him that got him through some of the toughest times in his life, got him to go to school and get a degree. And I'm telling you, it was the biggest shock of my life to hear him tell me any of this, because it wasn't anything I ever did on purpose. I just cared about Justin. And so when I'd speak to him, just like I'd speak to anybody I cared about and loved, I just talked to him from that perspective, and that was important. Well, I remember what he told me. He said, Beto, at one time, I was really upset and struggling, and you told me that, Justin, you got to live by the perspective of militant optimism. I'm like, you got to be a militant about it. You can't ever let anything drop your guard. You got to be like a military man with your optimism. And that's it's a kind of a not a real cultured perspective after the 20 years I've spent in leadership development and training and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if I'd even teach that right, but reality is it really hit a chord with him, and I had no idea. All right, I had absolutely no idea. So when you're speaking with these people that are in your organization that you see struggling, don't be so concerned whether or not these people are actually going to join your organization. Don't be so concerned whether they're actually going to take action. Care about them as individual people. Connect with them with their struggle. You never know if something small you say is something they're talking about on stage, even if it's at another company, 30 years down the road is something that made a pivot in their life, right? You never really know, because I'll tell you, I had absolutely no clue that what I had to say to my friend Justin had any impact. And honestly, I had to sit and think about it a lot to be like, man, what conversation were we having? And it is it is a valuable thing to learn to love people, because so it is a skill. You know, a lot of times people just don't really like people. They don't love them enough. They don't find enough reasons to. And I'll tell you, it's not that one person does over another person. You learn to do it. It's a skill. Okay, it's a skill just like anything else. You know, you start paying very close attention to how they feel. You start paying very close attention to what their struggle actually is, and open your mind to becoming a solutions provider for the things that helps them from that perspective. And believe me, you can't help but love people at that point. All right, so love people, love the struggle. We are here all day. For any of you distributors curious as to whether or not we're working today, we are here for the day. We are not here tomorrow. We're not here Friday. But of course, I'm always around on the weekends. And then, of course, we will be back to work Monday as well. So thank you for joining me here for the Morning Mindset. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend with your families. For those of you in the UK, if you're working, I do apologize. I got some family things to do. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back on Friday. I will be doing a morning mindset on Friday, but not tomorrow. Thank you very much.